In working with exponents and negative numbers, it is critical that we understand how parentheses can change the meaning. If we look at parts A and B, part A has a negative with a 4 and an exponent of 2, and part B has a negative 4 in parentheses with an exponent of 2. Because exponents only apply to what they are immediately next to or what they are touching, these two expressions have very different meanings. In part A, the exponent is only next to the 4, so it implies there's a set of parentheses around the 4 squared. And so the meaning of part A, negative 4 squared, is that it is a negative 4 times 4. There's only one negative, it's only the 4 that's being squared. And the answer there is negative 16. Whereas in part B, the square applies to everything in parentheses, and since the negative 4 is in parentheses, negative 4 in parentheses squared means negative 4 times negative 4, and a negative times a negative is a positive 16. The problem is when you read these out loud, often you will read both of them as negative 4 squared. But really, part A means the opposite of 4 squared, and part B means the quantity negative 4 squared. Having or not having those parentheses can change your sign. In part C, the opposite of 4 to the third means negative 4 times 4 times 4. One negative times a bunch of positives will give me a negative result, and 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So the answer for part C is negative 64. The quantity negative 4 to the third power means negative 4 times itself 3 times. Because the 3 is next to the parentheses, the power of 3 applies to everything in parentheses. So we have negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. 3 negatives being multiplied give us a negative result. 4 times 4 times 4 is still 64. And the answer for part D is also negative 64. What's important in the difference between A and B and the difference between C and D is not that sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative, but what does the exponent apply to? In both parts A and C, the square on part A and the cube on part C only apply to the 4. So it's only the 4 that's getting repeated. Whereas in part B and D, the exponent of 2 or the exponent of 3 apply to everything in parentheses. So it's the entire negative 4 that gets repeated twice, or the entire negative 4 that gets repeated 3 times in part D. Understanding what an exponent applies to and how including or excluding parentheses will change the meaning of what you're saying is critical to using exponents correctly.